Michael Bryan here with the second episode of Tales from the Childhood. And for this episode, I really just want to talk about my first dog, Bruno. Got him when I was 5 years old and I was still living in Stowe, Vermont. And here's a little history about Bruno, but just like lock in your seats because you're in for a ride. I'm going to tell you that. But so my mom had these three friends. They were all deadheads. And the first guy was Rob Roy. And Rob Roy lived in the basement of this French restaurant, right? And he worked there as a chef. But he was a very, very talented artist, and he'd make these like giant statues, just raw, like these life-size bears with a chainsaw and a huge log. But he actually got Bruno when Bruno was just a little puppy, right? And here, just here's a little picture real quick. That's Bruno. Huge dog, right? He was like part Belgian Shepherd, part German Shepherd, and some even say he was part wolf, for real. So anyway, Rob Roy got Bruno when he's just a little puppy, man. He caused mayhem. He'd get into every little thing he could. So Rob was like, I just can't take care of him. So he gave him to Fat Pat. And Fat Pat was this huge deadhead that my mom was like great friends with, right? And he, when Jerry Garcia died, he actually didn't leave his house for like 3 months. But man, Fat Pat was just one of the nicest souls. And he took care of that dog for as long as he could. I'll never forget it. Fat Pat used to make, maple syrup right out of the maple trees from his yard. And we'd get some every single year and use it on my pancakes and just smash them, right? And so Fat Pat couldn't take care of Bruno no more, so then he passed it on to Smurf. And Smurf was this awesome guy. He had these small little dreads, glasses, white dude, lived in the woods with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend was cool too. And she actually went to high school with the band Fish. But long story short, yeah, Smurf actually taught me how to play basketball too when I was just a kid. But Smurf took care of Bruno for as long as he could too, and eventually he couldn't. So he asked my mom if she wanted a dog, and my mom was like, I'll take him. And I'll never forget, my mom brought Bruno back that day. I'll just show him one more time. It was just love at first sight. And I'll never forget, I took Bruno, I walked him like 2 miles all the way to the little yellow house office my dad was working out of at the town, right? And I like showed my dad, like, Dad, we got a dog. And Dad was just like, oh, shoot. So he knew. But my dad became best friends with Bruno, and here's some funny renditions, some stories. So, Bruno was one of those very, very tricky, conniving dogs, and he could always get out of the house, always. And he'd always get out, and then I'd just be chasing him down, like, Bruno, get back here, and I could never catch him, right? But, one day it was Easter, and I go downstairs with my brother to get my Easter basket, and I look around, like, where is it? And I just see all these wrappers on the ground. I'm like, what the heck? So I run to the basket, I just feel this big... Like I look down, I'm like, oh man, I stepped in this giant, nasty, fresh, warm turd, right? And I'm talking huge turd. My whole foot sank all the way in. I was like, oh, gross. And I look at Billy, like, he starts laughing hysterically. I'm like, why are you laughing? And I start crying. So I go to run after my brother, and I just feel like, my right foot goes all the way deep into another giant turd. And it was just the most disgusting thing. And I just never forget the look on my brother's face as he laughed hysterically as I cried, just covered in doo-doo. So, and then after that, this dog would always sneak out, and I'd always catch him. I couldn't find him, right? I'd be chasing him all the way down, and I'd look over in the neighbor's yard who had some horses, and Bruno would just be hanging out with the horses in the neighbor's yard. And then one time he got out, and he was running all the way down the street, and my mom couldn't catch him, right? He was gone, man. I mean, once that guy got out the door, he would, boom, just gone, man. And I'll never forget that he actually got hit by a car one day. And he was laying on the ground, and just laying there, and the owner of the car got out, and the owner started crying, started screaming at Bruno, like, why did you run in front of my car? Like, whoa. And all of a sudden, Bruno just boom, just popped up. I guess he might have just got knocked the heck out. He looked at the owner and just boom, was gone, right? And then there's another time when I was at my dad's boss's house for a party. They lived right down the street, and they had one of those Akitas, right? One of those fierce dogs, and I thought it'd be cool to play tag with both dogs, and that Akita ended up just, boom, just biting me right in the face, and Bruno just went, rah, just attacked the dog and took him out, bit the dog, and saved my butt. And, that Bruno was amazing. And, flash forward, when I moved from Stowe to Milwaukee, Bruno honestly became the neighborhood dog. He always snuck out, always opened the door and just ran. He'd be gone, running around the neighborhood. All the kids knew him. And, he was just amazing. Now, I'm going to backtrack real quick. Sorry for such a long story, but this dog deserves even a longer story. And, when I was at Stowe Elementary School, my brother and I would be in class. And I'd be sitting there doing whatever work I'm doing, and we'd hear over the loudspeaker, Michael or Billy Bryant, please come to the office to get your dog. And we'd be like, what? And it turns out, like, we lived in the yard of the school. My dog would sneak out of the house. And then he would actually walk all the way around the school and sneak in through the doors. And he'd be walking around the school, man, just all through the hallways. It's crazy. So I had to go down there and get my dog and bring him back home. And it was one of the most amazing times of my life. And yeah, so then I was just in Milwaukee, and this dog became like everybody's friend. He'd sneak out, run up to the neighbor kids. My brother's friends became best friends with Bruno, like Jay and Schiller, my best friend John, and like the last day I walked him probably for 3 hours one night. And I walked him all around the block, and I walked him through Underwood Park and up this cool like hill down through Sacagawea Trail, which went back through the woods to Diane Drive where we all lived, right? And I walked that dog, and I brought him home, and I laid with him for a couple hours. It's just like, I love you, Bruno. And the next day, he went outside to go to the bathroom, and he was in the yard, and he just fell over. My dad went out there and was like, "Hey, Bruno, come on, buddy." I'm like, "Come on, buddy," and like he didn't move, and that was it, man. And I'll never forget. My dad told me like, "Hey, I gotta talk to you, Mike." I was like, "Yeah," and my dad's like, "Bruno passed away last night," and I just started bawling, and like I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "He went to a better place. He's up in heaven." And I remember picking him up with a blanket with my dad and bringing him to the animal hospital to get cremated. And that dog changed my life. It taught me about what it truly means to have a pet animal, and a best friend. And he taught me about death. And Bruno was a great dog, and I'm so glad he was in my life for the time he was. And there's way more stories I could have told about him, but I just wanted to get some of those out and let you guys know, because that's the second episode. And I love you all. These are hard times. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll have a third one coming out in like 4 or 5 days. And I'm just gonna leave this one to Bruno, guys. All right, ciao.